Following yesterday's decision by the Football League to relegate Swindon Town Football Club to the 3rd Division, we present an HTV News special now in place of the advertised programme, Swindon's Nightmare.
Good evening. Well, the nightmare continues for Swindon Town Football Club as players, directors and fans try to come to terms with the sensational decision by the Football League to relegate them to Division 3. Well, this bombshell came just 11 days after they'd won promotion to the 1st Division. The league have given Swindon the toughest punishment ever in English football after they admitted 36 charges of making illegal payments to players. Well, this afternoon, a still shocked chairman said that the club would be appealing.
The board at Swindon Town Football Club have met following last night's decision by the Football League to take the unprecedented step of relegating the club by 2 divisions as a result of breaches which, on the admission of the Football Association and the Inland Revenue, are widespread. The board are devastated by the unreasonableness, unfairness and severity of the sentence, particularly as the chairman had, before the playoffs, offered to the Football League to withdraw the club from these playoffs. And such offer was turned down. The board has unanimously decided to appeal against the Football League's decision.
So Swindon haven't given up hope of getting into the 1st Division, but there could be more problems on the horizon. After yesterday's decision, the Football League said that they'd also be recommending that a further commission be set up to consider more charges against present and former directors, officials and players of the club. They've already spelt out the charges which led to their drastic action.
The club had pleaded guilty to 36 charges involving, with one exception, payments in breach of the rules going back to 1985. There were also payments to other unspecified players at the end of 1989. 9 of the players referred to are still with the club. The league went on to point out that one effect of the payments was to understate the players' earnings. That, in turn, could well have led to lower figures for transfer fees being awarded to Swindon by the League Appeals Committee. Swindon have been ordered to pay compensation to the 6 clubs affected, including Bristol Rovers.
Well, the town of Swindon has been in a state of shock today. Last night, hundreds of angry and disappointed fans demonstrated on the streets. Today, the flag at the council offices was flying at half-mast. A fighting fund has been set up by the mayor and the supporters club to raise money to appeal against the decision. This weekend, Swindon's manager, Ozzy Ardiles, who was given the relegation news while on holiday in Argentina, is flying back to Britain. Well, there are questions now over his future with the club and whether Swindon can prove that the relegation decision was too harsh.
This morning, the flag flew at half-mast above the headquarters of Thamesdown Council. At Swindon's county ground, supporters gathered for first-hand news of moves to salvage the wreckage of their 1st Division dream. Some voiced their anger at the club's directors.
I think they should all resign, a lot of them. You can't turn around and say that Hillier and Macari was the only ones that knew what was going on in this club. Same board as what it was before. They should all resign.
Yeah, true.
Among the supporters was Swindon's MP, listening to their arguments and anger.
I think it's a very harsh decision. I'm not aware of any club that's ever been punished with this degree of severity in the Football League before. Clearly, the whole of the town is very upset indeed. You've only got to look at the reaction that there's been. Couple that with the reaction when we gained promotion to the 1st Division just 11 short days ago, and you can see just how badly upset the whole town is. So what I want to do is to work together with other leaders of the community and all of the town and try to persuade the Football League to reverse the decision.
Swindon's captain and senior players arrived at midday to read a prepared statement.
On behalf of all the players of Swindon Town Football Club, we are quite naturally devastated at the result of yesterday's Football League inquiry, after all the efforts of the past 10 months. However, after seeing the response of the people within football, especially the Swindon supporters, the Board of Directors and the Professional Footballers Association, we are glad the club is appealing to the Football League, and we pin our hopes on the football authorities to impose a more appropriate and reasonable penalty.
And they wouldn't give a clear answer about whether they'd stay and play third division football.
We can't really comment on that at the moment, that's premature.
But Swindon's sponsors, GWR Radio, have pledged to continue their support. Their position hasn't changed.
No, it doesn't. It means we'll be working harder to help the club if they do stay in Division 3. Obviously, you need to work harder to get people to come and watch a match against Maidstone or somebody like that, and you do to get people to come and watch a match against Liverpool. The deal has always been for 2 years. It has another season to run next season, and we're going to honour that.
And will manager Ozzy Ardiles, currently on holiday in Argentina, stay with Swindon?
I've heard from his wife, and Ozzy is trying to get the next plane back.
What's he said about his position here?
He hasn't mentioned his position here. He was as devastated as I was last night.
Gary, why did you think about withdrawing the team from the playoffs?
Because I realised the severity of the charges against the football club, and I didn't want to happen what has actually happened.
Swindon's mayor and the supporters club have now joined forces to help the club's appeal.
One, that we would set up a fund known as the Mayor's Swindon Supporters Fighting Fund. It is to be launched, into which supporters can make donations which will be used to help a campaign against the demotion.
A collection among fans raised £200 immediately. It'll go towards Swindon's fight against what they call the unjust Football League decision. Meanwhile, the directors say they won't resign, but some may reconsider their position after the appeal.
The fans who had loyally supported Swindon all season went back to the county ground as news of the club's relegation spread. The familiar chants couldn't hide their anger and sorrow. For a time, there was an atmosphere of complete confusion as news of what had happened slowly sank in.
We've got a team here that is a credit to football. We've got a manager here that is a credit to the game, and they're just taking it away from us.
Because I've been to every Swindon home game and I've been to most of their away games, and this decision is absolutely criminal.
And the people who actually care about football and pay the money week after week, they didn't get anything.
As darkness fell, many fans got into the ground and continued to shout their support from the terraces and on the pitch. The police seemed to share the fans' feeling of stunned disbelief, summed up in a notice pinned to the main entrance.
Well, Swindon's fate was decided at a Football League inquiry at Aston Villa's ground yesterday. There'd been no hint of the way that the inquiry would go, but directors of the Swindon club knew that they did face the ultimate penalty, that of relegation, but none of them had expected the price that they'd have to pay would be so high. Well, our cameras were at Villa Park as the day's sensational events unfolded.
Swindon town officials weren't prepared for what was to come at the end of the 8-hour hearing. New chairman Gary Herbert led the 4 directors into the Villa Park boardroom. Hours later, the smiles were gone. They'd hoped to escape with a fine, but the Football League were in no mood to go softly on Swindon. The delegation facing the 3-man commission included the club president, Cecil Green, and the former secretary, Dave King, who was sacked for allegedly talking publicly about the club's affairs. Supporters had hoped to sway the league with a huge petition in support of Swindon staying in the First Division.
44,000 people have signed it. You know, just hope it'll do some good.
Do you think it will sway the Football League?
I don't know. I think there's a lot more involved than people know, I think, so it's just a matter of time.
The findings of the commission were announced just after 7 o'clock yesterday evening. The club had pleaded guilty to 36 charges involving payments to players going back to 1985. 9 of those players are still with the club. The league said there were serious and persistent breaches of regulations, and they ordered Swindon to pay compensation to 6 clubs, including Bristol Rovers, after transfer terms had been distorted. The present directors were censured. Then came the bombshell.
Arising out of today's proceedings, the Management Committee of the Football League will be recommended to set up a further commission to consider charges against a number of present and former directors, officials and players of the club. 4, that Swindon Town Football Club be demoted by 2 divisions, i.e. to the 3rd division as of season 1990-91.
The world had fallen in on Swindon Town, their first division prize taken away. The chairman's immediate reaction was muted and short.
I would ask our supporters to remain calm and leave the board of directors a short time to consider the question of an appeal. Thank you.
In front of the country's press, Gary Herbert couldn't find the words to express his feelings. Then he found just one whispered word.
Devastated. That's it, gentlemen. Well, I just feel so much for the Swindon supporters. And I'm one of them.
Did you expect this?
Got no comment.
I mean, Division 3 must be quite a blow for Swindon Town.
Obviously.
What are you going to do now, Mr. Herbert?
Think.
Will you be in touch with Aussie idealists in Argentina?
Yes, I will.
What do you think now the future is for Aussie at Swindon?
I don't want to speculate at the moment.
I really don't want to make a statement, but I'm just devastated. I never dreamt this could happen.
What does it mean now for Swindon?
Difficult to say. I want to go home and have a night's sleep on it.
Would you have any message for the fans?
I'd say keep calm. For God's sake, keep calm. And let's face up to it. It's happened, and we've got to face it.
When this was announced to the board, what was the reaction?
I can't speak for others. I just speak for myself. I'm devastated.
Well, the Villa Park decision, which sent shockwaves through the football world, was the final blow to Swindon Town in a season which has seen great success on the pitch, but trouble behind the scenes. Earlier this year, former manager Lou Macari and the then chairman Brian Hillier were found guilty by the FA of placing a bet on a Swindon Cup tie. Both men are also currently facing charges after an Inland Revenue tax inquiry. Well, nobody connected with the club could ever have imagined all this would emerge when those 11 Swindon players took to the pitch at Newcastle 4 years ago.
It was a cup tie that Swindon would never forget, not for the score, but the scandal that followed. The manager at the time, Lou Macari, was later to be fined for his part in a bet placed on Swindon to lose that match. The then chairman, Brian Hillier, would be fined and banned from football. Both would face criminal charges. The club's reputation would be shattered. Macari's footballing pedigree was unquestionable. He played for Scotland, Celtic, and scored this FA Cup final winner for his last club, Manchester United.
And it's got to be down to Jimmy Greenough, although Macari and Hill are there to claim it.
Teetotaler Macari took up the Swindon manager's job in 1984, but in under a year he was sacked by the board. It was a decision that incensed the Swindon faithful. They mounted an unprecedented campaign to get him reinstated. In just a week, he returned to the county ground and was given an emotional welcome by the fans who'd fought successfully to get his job back. That season, Swindon were promoted as 4th Division champions. The following year, they went up again. 12 months on and their remarkable success continued in Division 2, but they just failed to make the 1st Division, falling at the final hurdle in the playoffs. The rumours about whether the ambitious Macari would stay began. Macari's decision to join 1st Division West Ham was the first of a number of body blows to hit Swindon over the coming months. His replacement, Swindon decided, would be in the Macari mould. Aussie Ardiles had won the World Cup with Argentina and the FA Cup with Spurs. He took over, unaware of the extreme pressures the club was about to face. A Sunday newspaper published allegations that in 1988, Lou Macari and the club chairman, Brian Hillier, placed a £6,500 bet on Swindon to lose their FA Cup third-round tie with Newcastle, a game they lost 5-0. These claims fuelled a bitter boardroom struggle in which Carol Embry tried to take control of the club. Her attempts, though, were foiled, and Brian Hillier continued as chairman. The club had fallen headlong into crisis. Macari and Hillier were brought before the FA to answer the betting charges. Both were found guilty. Hillier was banned from football for 6 months. Swindon Town was fined £7,500 and Macari £1,000. Hillier and Macari appealed. Macari's fine was upheld, but Hillier's ban was extended to 3 years. Swindon moved fast to minimise the damage and promote a new scandal-free future. They appointed a new chairman.
I think that the reputation of the football club has in fact suffered. It's our job now to try to put that right and go on in the future.
But more serious allegations were to follow. The same paper claimed that Swindon Town players received illegal payments under the Hillier-Macari regime. As a Football League investigation got underway, regional crime squad officers arrested Macari, Hillier, the club's former accountant, and the club captain in dawn raids. They followed an Inland Revenue tax investigation. Macari and Hillier were charged with intent to defraud the Inland Revenue. The accountant faced one charge of false accounting. They were bailed by Swindon magistrates and are due in court again next week. Under this extreme pressure on the field, the players were producing some of the best football ever seen at the county ground. In the final of the second division playoffs at Wembley, they reached the first division for the first time in the club's history. It was a remarkable achievement too by Ozzy Ardiles, who in such a short space of time had brought his South American flair to the side.
So, what now for Swindon Town? What happens next? Well, in the studio tonight to discuss this issue, the chairman of the Supporters Association, Chris Scott, and Roger Malone, our own sports reporter. They're talking to John Meredith.
Chris Scott, it's now just over 24 hours since the fateful decision at Villa Park. It must have really sunk in now for you.
Yes, it has. It's been one of the worst 24 hours of my life in football, and I still can hardly believe that the sort of savage punishment meted out for those offences could be so.
Do any of the supporters agree with the Football League's decision?
I haven't met one yet.
What about the decision by the board today to appeal?
I think that's absolutely right. I would have been most disappointed had they decided not to appeal.
Do you think they have any chance?
I think there's always a chance, of course there is, and of course we must not rule out the possibility that appeals review sentences. They don't always decrease them, they can increase them, but I wouldn't have thought there was little danger of that.
Come back to the appeal perhaps in a moment. Roger, you've followed these events very close to your heart, of course. Many people must have been ringing you as well.
I've had any number of calls, a lot of them with some very good suggestions, John, just a few of them. Mike Cross of Gillingham in Dorset, why Leeds United allowed to go up to Division 1 after they wreaked the havoc in Bournemouth, damaging people and property. Swindon fans haven't done any of that. The Swindon club haven't done any of that. Mrs. Barnes of Swindon, it's against the Fair Trading Act to have allowed Swindon fans to go to Wembley and spend all that money, so people should complain to the Director General, who may have to investigate that. Vince Harral of Chippenham, the director should take out an injunction restraining the league pending the court case involving Messrs. Hillier and Macari. That is standard practice. That's just three of many calls making valid points. I think the most extraordinary thing that's come out today has been a statement by Gordon Taylor of the Professional Footballers Association, a long statement backing the players and the club in their appeal, and saying this is Gordon Taylor of the PFA, MA, official man, one of the top men in football. If the league relegate every club who have breached relegations, there would be no team left in the first division. He's therefore saying they're all at it, and he's saying, above all, financial crimes have been committed by Swindon Town. That is admitted. Punish them financially, not punish them the way they are.
Chris, your reaction to this?
Well, it's a well-known fact that lots of allegations about lots of clubs, more fashionable clubs than Swindon Town, I have to say, but if the Football League have set this as a precedent, then they will be playing musical chairs with their clubs throughout all 4 divisions, I suspect,
Well,
very shortly.
do you think Swindon, then, have been made a scapegoat? Or is a whole can of worms going to open up with clubs all over the place?
I think both. I think Swindon Town have been made a scapegoat. Had they been a fashionable club, I don't think there'd been any question of 2 divisions relegation, and probably not 1. As to regards the can of worms, I believe that the Football League have put themselves in so many different awkward situations that they're going to find themselves very, very difficult to get out of it.
Well, now, back to this question of the appeal, it's going to have to be done very quickly, isn't it? Because
Indeed.
clearly the Football League is now getting its fixture list drawn out.
Indeed.
Now, is this going to be to Swindon's advantage or not?
I would have hoped so. I think it would be to the advantage of everyone involved. The other clubs who are perhaps looking for that first division place, which is rightly belongs to Swindon. So, yes, speed is important, but I would think a timescale of days rather than any other timescale.
But isn't there a danger that something even more dramatic could happen? We saw, for example, what happened to your former chairman, Brian Hilly, when he appealed. There is precedent for a club being expelled from the league. It happened to Port Vale.
That is so, but Port Vale called, or an extraordinary general meeting of the league was called, and they were promptly re-elected. That's obviously something for the directors to consider.
Roger, your view on the appeal. Could it go wrong for Swindon?
Well, the Football Association, who are the umbrella body, they will hear it, and I think they've been working very closely with the Football League in recent weeks in this matter, and I can't see the FA overturning the league decision. I think the football club, Chris Scott, is working so hard with supporters who have kept calm overnight, you know, done very well. They've got to go outside the football authorities, I think. They've got to go maybe to the High Court, maybe to the European Court. They've got to take their case away from the football bodies, who I think will be very firm on this. I rang the Football League today, and let's not pretend there haven't been anything wrong things done at Swindon. There have been a lot of wrong things done. The Football League say this today, 36 charges, they admitted 35. They asked for another 20 to be taken into account.
Yeah,
That's a total of 56.
But this is the point, isn't it, Roger? And Chris, these are very, very serious charges.
Oh, indeed. I think no one has ever suggested that Swindon Town should not be punished. There's 2 points I would make. One is that the people who might have been involved in that are no longer with the club. That's the first point. Secondly, that the imposition of this sort of sentence for what's been a financial irregularity is absolutely incomprehensible to me and many others.
It's also been made clear there is to be a second inquiry into other officials, other players.
Yes, the Football League Commissioner are suggesting another commission to bring charges against present directors and players, as well as past directors. So, but I think Swindon and Gary Herbert just, you know, told us tonight that the chairman, who's in this difficult position, they admit financial crimes, they want to be punished financially. Make the punishment fit the crime. Everybody outside the Football League and the FA agree on this, so I think they've got to go outside football to get the support rolling.
Can we turn away then from the matters of discipline to the matters concerning clearly the team, and clearly Ozzy Ardil is flying back this weekend. Now, is he going to stay with the club?
I would certainly hope so. It's obviously his decision. If Swindon Town do have to stay in Division 3, then I can see a situation where he may reluctantly decide to go. We'd have to say, thanks for what you've done.
Roger, you were saying last night what a loyal man he is, what an honourable man, but the pressure must be on him to go from Swindon now.
I've got 3 big questions in my mind at the moment on that, John. Doug Ellis, the chairman of Aston Villa, pulled out of the tribunal which tried Swindon yesterday. I want to know why. I made inquiries today. Something of paramount importance abroad affected his ability to be on that, I was told. I can't think of anything bigger than doing the job he should have been doing in some people's eyes of staying on that commission. He could lose his manager, Graham Taylor, to become the England manager after Bobby Robson. Aston Villa, second in the first division, will be looking for a new manager. Will they be looking for Ozzy Ardiles? Is that why Mr. Ellis pulled out of the commission, so it can't be said he was on the commission that sent them down and then took their manager? I'm only asking the questions. I hope Ozzy stays, but those questions are in my mind tonight.
Chris, they're obviously in your mind too. Can I just perhaps look ahead, sadly, to the coming season? If the worst happens and Swindon are in Division 3, what then? What's going to happen?
I'll tell you what's going to happen. The supporters and the people of Swindon Town, Swindon, will be behind Swindon Town. They will be at the county ground. They will be at the away grounds. We shall be going back into the first division before very much longer. Make no mistake about that. It will be a very tough ride. It will not be easy. We'll need a lot of help. But I know that the people in the community of Swindon won't fail the football club any more than the football club will fail the people of Swindon.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
So the debate goes on, and no doubt it's going to run and run. We'll be following events for you as they happen. But whatever the future holds for Swindon Town, what a sad and sorry way to end what should have been their most successful season ever.
That Swindon Town Football Club be demoted by 2 divisions, i.e. to the 3rd division as of season 1990-91.
I'm just devastated. I never dreamt this would happen.
That was a change to our advertised programme Star Portrait, which will be shown at a later date.